Hey everyone, welcome back. It's awesome to have you here, especially for this deep dive. We're tackling the future of families today. And let me tell you, the stuff we're getting into, it's next level.
Yeah, no, it really is. The future is closer than we think, especially when you're talking about family planning and how it's all going to look like down the road.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
We've got Dr. Alexis Heng with us today, one of the top minds in the field, literally like top 2% of scientists globally.
Oh, he's incredible. Really groundbreaking work.
Totally. So get ready, folks, because we're about to unpack some seriously cutting-edge advancements that are going to change how we think about having kids.
And Singapore is, well, it's like the perfect petri dish for this kind of stuff. Declining birth rate, aging population makes these technologies not just interesting, but, almost essential.
Totally. It's like they're walking this tightrope between like holding on to tradition and then, bam, embracing innovation.
Exactly.
Okay, so first up, we got to introduce the big three, the game changers, right? We're talking in vitro gamegenesis, IVG for short.
Yeah.
Then there's artificial womb technology, that's AAWT. And finally, synthetic human embryos. Get ready to have your mind blown because this is wild stuff.
It's going to be a wild ride, that's for sure.
Okay, so IVG, first up. Imagine this. Instead of needing, the traditional egg and sperm, we're talking creating these building blocks of life in a lab from skin cells,
Wild.
right? It's like taking your local clinic and turning it into a mini baby factory.
Kind of, yeah. And the thing is, it bypasses the whole biological clock thing, right?
They-
Which is huge for age-related infertility.
Yeah. Huge. But then it makes you think, like, who gets access to this if it becomes, the norm? Are we going to create, like, a whole new level of inequality?
Oh, for sure. Those are the big questions. Dr. Hang, he dives deep into that in his work.
He does.
He's really concerned about, ethical safeguards and making sure everyone has a shot at this, not just the super rich.
Absolutely. It's like for every door these technologies open, you've got a whole new set of questions about, well, everything.
It's true.
Okay, so next up, artificial womb technology, AWT. And honestly, the name kind of says it all. It's basically a way for a baby to grow safely outside the womb.
Think of it like a super high-tech incubator, but for, the whole pregnancy.
Exactly. It could revolutionize how we think about pregnancy, childbirth, the whole nine yards.
And, for premature babies, this could be, well, it could change everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder about things like parental choice, right? Like, what if AWT is possible, but maybe not the best option for a particular baby or family? It's a lot to unpack.
It is. It really is. And then you've got, like you said, the ethics of it all. Who gets to decide, what's the best course of action?
Exactly.
It's heavy stuff.
It really is. Okay, last but definitely not least, we got to talk about synthetic human embryos. This one, I'll be honest, it still kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, this is where it gets, well, uncharted territory in a lot of ways.
Totally. We're talking about creating something that's like embryo-like,
Yeah.
but without using the traditional sperm and egg.
Just stem cells.
Stem cells, exactly. It's like, what even is life anymore,
Right. And it's not just about, having babies. This has implications for organ transplantation, drug testing, all kinds of stuff.
It's huge. And I think it's safe to say this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're just getting started.
I mean, it's exciting and kind of terrifying all at the same time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Dr. Heng, he's really good at, bringing up these ethical things we got to think about.
He's like the voice of reason in all this mind-blowing science.
Totally, like with IVG, right? Extending female fertility, that's huge. But then he's like, hold on a sec, what about the societal pressures on women?
Yeah, will it actually, like, make things worse, women feeling like they have to delay having kids even longer?
Exactly. And then, he gets into posthumous reproduction, which is, well, it's a lot.
Using a dead person's cells to have a baby. It's like something out of, I don't know, a movie.
Right. But think about the families, the grieving families. It could be like a way to heal, to connect to their loved one.
I can see that, but at the same time, the person's gone. They didn't consent to this. And what about the kid?
Exactly. What about the child? Growing up, knowing they were, well, created this way, it's a lot to unpack ethically.
It really is. And speaking of complex family situations, like, what about same-sex couples? Especially in Singapore, where same-sex marriage isn't even legal.
It's like this weird contradiction, right? These technologies could give them so many options, but the laws haven't caught up with the science.
It's like society is always a step behind.
Always. Dr. Hing talks about that a lot, how these advancements are outpacing our, ethical frameworks, legal frameworks, everything.
It's like we're making up the rules as we go.
Kinda, yeah. Which is why we need these conversations, to figure it all out.
Exactly. So I don't know, let's like zoom in on each of these technologies for a sec. Starting with IVG, one of the things that really struck me from Dr. Heng's 2022 article was about how this could change the economics of fertility treatments.
Oh, yeah. Right now, it's so expensive. It's a barrier for so many people.
Totally. But he's saying, like, what if making sperm and eggs in a lab became as easy as getting, like, a blood test?
That would be incredible. It would, like, democratize the whole thing.
Right. But then, we talked about accessibility earlier, and Dr. Heng uses this term, boutique eugenics, which is kind of scary when you think about it.
Oh, for sure. Like, what if you could just, I don't know, pick and choose the traits you want for your kid?
Like ordering from a menu.
Right. Tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, super intelligent. It's like, where does it stop?
And that's just the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Then you factor in, like, Singapore's a small country, densely populated, and Dr. Heng talks about accidental incest becoming more likely.
Oh, yeah, that was in his paper.
With more people potentially using donor sperm or eggs, it's like
Yes.
the odds of accidentally dating your half-sibling just went way up.
Yeah, you need some serious record keeping for that, some regulation.
It's like every solution comes with, like, 10 new problems.
Welcome to the future, right?
Right. Okay, so let's move from, like, conception to pregnancy itself. Artificial womb technology, AWT.
Okay.
Dr. Heng, in his 2023 article, he really dives into how this could, like, change everything for premature babies.
Oh, totally. Imagine a world where prematurity isn't this scary thing, where babies can just, like, develop safely in this artificial womb.
It's kind of like that movie, what was it called? The Matrix, where they're all in those pods.
Yeah, kind of like that, but less, dystopian, hopefully.
Hopefully. But even so, Dr. Heng brings up this idea of parental obligation, and it's something I hadn't even considered.
What do you mean?
Like, what if this becomes so normal having a baby in an artificial womb that parents who choose natural birth are seen as, like, irresponsible?
Oh, wow, yeah, like they're putting their kid at risk by not using the technology.
Exactly. It's like, where's the line between, choice and obligation?
Yeah.
And then on the totally opposite side of the spectrum, he talks about the possibility of AWT being used to, like, rescue fetuses from late-term abortions.
Oh, boy, yeah, that gets complicated fast.
Right. Who gets to decide what a rescue is? And who's responsible for that child, financially, emotionally, all of it.
It's a minefield, ethically speaking.
Totally. And it's like that with all of this, right? Amazing potential, but with these huge ethical questions we can't ignore. It's a lot to process, that's for sure. And it feels like with every advancement, we're not just pushing scientific boundaries, but ethical ones as well. Like we're standing on the edge of this uncharted territory, and we need to figure out the rules of engagement as we go.
And that's exactly the point Dr. Heng emphasizes throughout his work. He's not advocating for a halt to scientific progress. He's urging us to engage in these critical conversations now before these technologies become so commonplace that we haven't adequately addressed the ethical implications.
He's waving a big red flag, urging caution and careful consideration, which is fascinating given his own deep dive into this world. Okay, so we've covered IVG and AWD pretty extensively, but let's circle back to the one that still has me reeling a bit. Synthetic human embryos. It feels like something straight out of a science fiction novel, yet here we are.
It does, doesn't it? And Dr. Heng argues that this technology, while still in its early stages, forces us to confront some fundamental questions about the very definition of life. If we can create an embryo-like structure in a lab without traditional sperm or egg fertilization, where does life truly begin?
It's like we're rewriting the rule book on creation, which is both exhilarating and a bit terrifying, to be honest.
Exactly, and it's not just about the implications for reproduction. Dr. Heng highlights the potential for this technology to revolutionize organ transplantation, even drug testing. Imagine growing organs in a lab, perfectly matched to a patient, eliminating the wait for donors and the risk of rejection, or testing new drugs on synthetic embryos rather than relying on animal models.
The potential benefits are hard to ignore. But again, with every possibility comes a new layer of ethical complexity. Are we crossing a line? Is there a point where these advancements start to feel less like scientific progress and more like playing God?
Those are the very questions we need to be asking ourselves as a society. And Dr. Heng argues that these conversations can't happen in a vacuum. It's not just up to scientists, ethicists, or policymakers to decide. We need open dialogue, public engagement, and thoughtful consideration of the values and beliefs of our communities.
It's a shared responsibility then. It's on all of us to engage with these topics and think critically about the kind of future we're creating. It's about finding that balance between scientific advancement and ethical responsibility, which brings us back to Singapore. Given its unique position as a global leader in innovation and its own internal struggle with declining birth rates, it's like they're at the epicenter of this technological and ethical earthquake.
They are, and Dr. Heng stresses that how Singapore chooses to navigate these advancements could have ripple effects globally. He points to the work being done by the Bioethics Advisory Committee, or BAC, as a positive sign. This group is tasked with providing recommendations to the government on the ethical, legal, and social implications of these technologies.
So they're taking a proactive approach at least.
Yes, but Dr. Heng also emphasizes that this is an ongoing conversation. It requires continual reassessment, adaptation, and open dialogue with the public. And he believes that Singapore, with its unique blend of tradition and progressiveness, could become a model for other nations grappling with these same questions.
It's almost like they're writing the playbook in real time.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the future of families, one question from Dr. Heng's work keeps echoing in my mind. How do we embrace the immense potential of these technologies while safeguarding the very essence of what makes us human, of what constitutes a family?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that each of us in our own way will need to grapple with as these technologies continue to evolve.
It's a conversation that's only just beginning. And on that note, we hope this deep dive has given you plenty to ponder, maybe even sparked some lively debates around the dinner table. Because one thing is certain, the future of families is far from written, and it's up to all of us to shape it responsibly.